Hi, everyone. So, welcome to the panel discussion. I think this is bringing us full circle. We've had such amazing talks, and now's the time to actually post your thoughts to our virtual delegates. Please do use the Q&A and put in your questions that might be directed to our panel members, as well as just your thoughts. And I'll share some comments periodically from here as well. And love that we've come to this point and extremely excited to see what's going to come off from this discussion. Ida, over to you.
Thank you, Veshni. At this point, I'd like to hand over to Dan Hartman, who's going to be the chair of the panel discussion. Dan, over to you.
Great, thank you. Well, I'm excited to see what's going to happen next too. I was, as several of you also could relate to this, I was roped into this by Colin. He's like, "Oh, you're going to be here, and can you do the last session?" Which means you actually have to pay attention during the whole meeting, which, thanks to caffeine, I was able to do. So first off, thanks to Colin and the organizing committee for pulling this together. I don't know if Steve Kern is on, but Steve has been a huge proponent of this, and he's been getting money from me to pay for this, sometimes reluctantly. But it's great. It's great to be here and to see where some of those resources have gone, and to see the lives here that it's influenced, but more importantly, to just imagine how it's influencing the populations that we're really trying to serve. Um, so I'm just going to give a bit of an introduction about myself, as some of the other speakers did, just so you know who I am. So I'm the director of integrated development at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, title that I've had for 13 years now. And my path to get there was really kind of interesting. And some of the speakers, they had this serpentine looking paths to their career, and this isn't my first rodeo. So I'd never imagined that I would be working at the Gates Foundation. I think Karen said, "Oh, I always wanted to go back and work in Africa." um, that wasn't my case, but I started wanting to be a doctor. So I went to medical school, then I did my internal medicine, I did pulmonary critical care, and I was going to go into practice and maybe some academic stuff. And I had no idea that with a medical degree, I could actually develop products, because nobody told me about that. So I love the slide of just what are some of the opportunities that you have. And I really, I want to talk more to the fellows and earlier career people, because these are things that nobody ever told me. And the only way I got my first product development job as a newly graduated fellow, is that I happened to be training in Indianapolis, Indiana, which there's a large pharmaceutical company based there called Eli Lilly. And some of the doctors at Eli Lilly rotated through the hospital where I was chief resident. Otherwise, I wouldn't even be here today. I'd be sticking bronchoscopes down somebody's throat. So there's luck. I used to say luck is when preparation and opportunity come together. And I've been lucky many times in my career. So I started out working in product development at Lilly, and I didn't know anything about pharmacology. I didn't know anything about manufacturing. So I knew how to do a bronchoscope. And I remember one day the CMC team, I was working on a biologic. They're like, this isn't like McDonald's. You can't just like pull up to the first window and order and pull up to the second and get your drug. We need like lead time. And the pharmacologists were like, okay, well, this first in human. I mean, nobody ever taught me about a first in human study. And then at one point in my career, my boss, he goes to me, he goes, "You've got a lot of good ideas. You just don't have any tools." He goes, "I know people with some tools, but no good ideas." And that's how I got connected to the pharmacology community. True story. And that was about 20 years ago. And I'm like, God, this makes so much sense. Why wouldn't everybody not do this? And so I can barely add and subtract, so I'm not going to put formulas up or anything like that, but I understand the value and have been a huge proponent of this, to the point where at one point in my career, I was even the president of the American Society of Clinical Pharmacology and Therapeutics. I think I am the only non-pharmacologist ever to hold that position. So I can fake a serious game of pharmacology. Um, and at one point in my career, um, I call it my earning learning ratio started to change, and I was earning more than I was learning. And then I luckily got this call from somebody in my network. You've heard network, probably tens of times. So this is what happened to me. Somebody in my network called me up and they said, "Hey, would you come and be a director at the Gates Foundation?" I'm like, "Well, what's the position?" They go, "I don't know. Why don't you write it?" I'm like, "Sure." So I actually wrote my own job description and went to work at the Gates Foundation. And I knew nothing about working in low and middle income countries. I mean, I knew where Africa was. If you put a pin in Africa, I could never tell you the country, right? I would have got South Africa right. That's the only one I knew was at the bottom. So needless to say, my learning component of that has substantially increased. And so, think about that as you think about your career. Kind of, are you earning? Are you learning? How do you find that right ratio? So anyway, those are just a couple of things that I wanted to describe a little bit about me, because I think it's, when you think about your future, which is really kind of what we're here to talk about, there's a whole bunch of different roles that you can play. There's such a diverse number of backgrounds here. We've had physicists and engineers and statisticians, and so just kind of throwing a broad net out there and just kind of like, what turns me on, what makes sense to me. You can go into regulation, you can go in work in pharma, you can do academia. There's a whole bunch of different things that you can do, but just make sure you've got the preparation and opportunity. The other thing I just want to reflect, I think I hired Steve as my first person who I hired when I got to the Gates Foundation. And after hearing his presentation today, I'm like, yeah, that was a good call. So that's the other thing, it's all about if you ever get into a position of leadership, it's all about who you hire. And so, Steve had so many great points today. I think one of them was communication. And I frequently tell my teams, if you can't influence your environment, you're not doing your job. And so you may be the smartest person in the room, but if you're not influencing your environment, and that's really what we do, right? We're here to influence our environment. I play a supportive role at the Gates Foundation. I'm happy about that. I work with 12 to 14 different departments, from HIV to nutrition, and it's their program, and I'm fine with that. And I used to tell Bill, I don't make the products you love, I just make them better. And that's really what we do. And so as you think about your job, and almost no matter what I mean, we've had so many different roles talked about. I think that that's an important thing. So anyway, I just wanted to give that bit of a background. And then, maybe we can start talking about the future as well. And I'm gonna just ask the panelists a couple of questions, a broad one about where they see the future going, and what we could be doing. And then I'm going to open it up to the audience. If you have any questions for either anybody in the audience or one of us, also the people online. And that's how we'll do it. And if we end early, that's great. If we end on time, that's okay. And I guarantee you we won't go over, because Colin's face will pop up on the screen and I'll know we're done. So, one of the, You know, the whole thing about AI is so exciting and so scary. You know, I have been using it. I'm using it almost on an exponential manner. Um, you know, whether it's through my work, whether it's, you know, flying into Kampala where I just go, hey, Chat GPT, I'm flying into Kampala. Tell me about the culture. Tell me about the exchange rate. If I have 3 hours, what one place should I go visit? You know, I mean, just that kind of stuff. You know, we talked about AI and regulation as well, which I think is fascinating. My first question is, you don't have to answer it now, but it's when we, how do we go from 250 working days to, you fill in the blank, but I'm curious what we think that number is going to be. But the world is just changing at a pace that I've never seen before. And it's going to influence all of us. So it'd be great to have the panelists talk about kind of where they see that going as well. Um, and I think you know, for me, with AI coming, I think some of the best skills that you can have are communication and the ability to implement. So those are two skills that AI can't do. AI is not going to set up the African Medicines Agency. It's going to help, but it's not going to do it. So if you can communicate and implement, I think those are probably the two things that I would see. And I think it's the way forward. I think we need to, you know, one of the speakers said, you know, you have to have a basic understanding of quantitative sciences and pharmacology. Yes. But but I think the people who are going to succeed are people who have something more than that. You know, that's the cover charge to get in the door, but you don't get anything with a cover charge. So what else are you doing? So I'm going to start on my far left, my friend from SAPRA, which by the way, you know, I'm so excited about the work that they're doing. It wasn't, it was probably what, 5 years ago, we were what 18,000 applications behind. And when you can see it today, again, this is an exponential improvement and due to great leadership and great people. So answer my 250 days and then where you think we should be going.
Thank you very much. With the AI, this is what we actually put ourselves into. Hence, we said we are very intentional at SAPRA about adopting AI and digitalization, because all that we want is to have faster access of medicines and critical medicines that we know that are of value for the public. So with adoption of this, where we're seeing, we're hoping to reach, because we do have different types of review pathways. We've got priority review, those are agent applications that we review. And our target for those applications, 180 days. And for public health emergencies, it's 90 working days. So what we want to do is move away from the 200 working days, 250 just to go less than 200. And so that the priority application working days becomes our standard with AI. That's what we're hoping and we're wishing to do, so that we can have faster access of medicines to the public. The future is that with the AI, it's going to bring innovations in South Africa and in the continent as a whole. So what we're seeing with embracing AI, because there will be more free time for the assessors, technical assessors, to do more work. So there will be innovations that we are bringing. We hope and we wish that the landscape that Africa, we only do mainly generics, that we can also move into doing more of innovative products. I mean, we've already seen with the expertise that we're having in-house, we are capable. So because of we are inundated with generics, So if we can have more time to review those type of innovative products as the continent, and then maybe we can attract more innovations in the continent.
Great, thank you. And the African Medicines Agency is all about innovative products. So they're not going to be reviewing generics. So I think there's going to be some really great opportunities to use that. And we're I think we, the collective, we are fortunate that Dr. Mimi Darko is the first Director General, and she is very open to the concept of we're starting digital, and everything is going to be AI enabled. And we're working at we're trying to get review times down even below 200 days for innovative products. And I think that's likely possible. So I think the future is exciting from that perspective. I'm excited to even be part of it peripherally. But I think those are some great things to look forward to. All right, I'm going to move to our second person here. Bernards, would you kind of talk about what you see as the future from your perspective and things that we could be doing, as a pharmacometrics community?
Thank you very much, and it's a pleasure, and I thank the organizers and possibly Colin for trying to do the impossible always. With Colin in the room, anything is possible. So that's how we've been. And sometimes you go to Colin and you say, we are writing a grant in 48 hours, and you get it done and you move on. But I think for pharmacometrics, I think those of us who are approaching the departure launch, you know what the departure launch means. I think for you sitting this side, it is not the future, it is now. You are the people who are going to make the change. The future is so bright. EMA and FDA in the US are so rigid to be changed. AMA is going to change the landscape, and it is you people who are going to do it. DACO is not going to employ from somewhere else. He's going to employ you. You are the people with the concept. And I think that's what we need to do. And the beautiful thing is that you don't need to move from Morocco to come to Rwanda. Technology has enabled that you will work from Morocco and run the things in Rwanda. So I think to me is that you people are in a unique space that the borders of your country is no longer limitation. You are going to work on a network. And that's what people should be doing now. See the colleagues you have as your next office mate, no matter the distance and wherever you are. Drug discovery has become so easy on the laptop. So innovations are going to happen here, and you can do it much more easily. So I don't see why somebody should say you are restricted by technology or anything else. So the future is bright. We are just like now, most countries in Africa are not doing bioequivalent studies. We are at the cusp where we are going to do bioequivalent studies much more differently from the tradition of bioequivalent studies to inform the regulatory requirements at our countries. And I think those are some of the things that with the new techniques put in place, we will do things better. And I think it is the time we'll be exporting the new techniques to Europe and the US so that they learn how, and in this space. And if pharmacometrics has been able to move, Africa has been able to move within the last 4 years in leaps and bounds with minimal resources, I think there's a lot more we can do and make the landscape much better. So to me, it is the ideas is the limitation. As you said, it is the thoughts and the way you communicate and implement. And nobody is young to do anything, and nobody is old to have an impact. So take the courage, dream, and make noise and persist like a postage stamp till you arrive. Those are the only things I can leave you.
Great. Thanks for those words of wisdom. Yeah, I love the laptop today. It's like I have a laptop. I can go anywhere, and it's becoming so true. You know, I mean, the silver lining of one of the silver linings of COVID was I had to stay home, and I had technology, and I mean, I've only got two screens up here right now. I have two back there. I have one in the hotel, but I mean, you can stay connected in any way, shape, and form, and I think that's great to call that out. You know, because you can do your work from almost anywhere. I moved 2,000 miles east of Seattle a month ago, and I'm still doing my job. So I think, you know, so I think those are great points. All right. We move from the left side to the right side. Please take it away.
Okay, so I think for me, obviously we've been talking about, the future with AI, yes, that is the future, but I think beyond AI, I think one thing that I can see with the future is that we're not going to have excuses anymore with Africa. Obviously, we've seen it, with Pharmacometrics Africa, we are not going to have excuse anymore. We can be part of what's happening in different places all over the world. And we are going to be part of it. And I believe, some of this is going to be coming from what's happening in this room. Obviously Karen was emotional talking, I can be as well, because I went to Manchester, 20 years ago to study for PhD. The first time I heard the word pharmacometrics was the day I was informed by my supervisor, who many of you know very well, Leon Aarons, that your PhD is going to be in pharmacometrics. That was the day I knew what pharmacometrics was, and that was in 2001. So I arrived in Manchester, and my first meeting with my PhD supervisor was, what programming language do you know? And this was somebody that studied pharmacy. I said, pardon me? I'm a pharmacist. He said, yes, I know. What programming language do you know? I said, I can send email if that's what you are asking. At this point, I couldn't even use Microsoft Excel. And I was going to do a PhD in pharmacometrics. And many of you, obviously, you've seen, some of my, work over the years. I had to learn, all these things, and the way it works with PhD in the UK, there's no class really, and it was just with first degree. And that was then. But now we don't have that anymore. There are resources, there are materials that even before I step out of Africa, I can tap into, I can use. And I believe I've had this conversation with some of you asking, what should you be doing now while you are looking towards that future? What you should be doing now is grabbing every opportunity. And that opportunity is just not going to come by somebody dropping it on your laps. That opportunity is going to come by you keeping your ears to the ground and just looking ahead for opportunity. But most importantly, keep building yourself a day at a time. Something that you didn't know yesterday, make sure you know it today. And look forward to what you're going to learn tomorrow to take yourself to the next level. So when we are talking about the future, especially in pharmacometrics, that future is going to come from here. We're talking about AI. AI is not going to do the science. We have to interpret AI. And there is going to be a place for the science. And that place for science is always going to be there. AI is going to do what AI can do, but we will still need that science. So most importantly, Africa, you are no excuse anymore. We have no excuse anymore. We have to get ready to be part of what is happening in the future.
Yes, I know. I feel like clapping after all of these, right? Yes. I love the no excuse. Katrina says, I love it when people say that's impossible, right? And the African Medicines Agency, 10 years ago, I had this crazy slide that nobody believed that said, you know, in 20 years, we're going to start an African medicines agency. But, you know, who would think that would ever happen, right? We know how things work. And now in half the time, we're starting it, and we're starting at a time where, you know, we could be the first, you know, fully AI enabled regulatory agency on the planet. So that's pretty cool. So yeah, I love the no excuses. All right, last and certainly not least, another person who commandeered me into this role. So now I'll let you take it home. Thank you for your earlier presentation, which I thought was just fantastic. Thanks, Adi.
Thank you so much, Dan. So for me, I think the take home about the future should be that we are in an era where Africa can contribute in terms of equal partnerships. I think we can enter equal partnerships with the global north. We can contribute, you know, exactly the same. In previous years, it would have been almost, we had to ship all our PK data, for example, out of the country, out of the continent. But we're in an era whereby, if I can talk about what we experienced yesterday and today, we're beginning to see that, for example, in certain disease areas, clinical trials on the African continent, you know, you'd probably conclude recruitment in a year, and in elsewhere, it would probably take 3 years, you know. So I think, like Kay said, there's no longer an excuse. If wet labs are prohibitively expensive, then let's do the pharmacometrics. Let's do it really well. So you can imagine that we can have recruitment on the continent. If you don't have a wet lab, PK samples can be sent elsewhere, and then they can be analyzed here on the continent. So really, for me, I think with AI and with COVID, what COVID and AI are both showing that we're in an era really where there are no borders. Like I said earlier on in my talk, you can contribute equitably, you can contribute world-class research in the continent, in your country. So I think just like we had pre-COVID and post-COVID, now we have pre-AI and post-AI. And like Kay has said, we really have no excuse. So for me, I think we can contribute equally with our partners in the global north. It's no longer, you know, it's no longer a flow from the global north to Africa. No, right now we are exporting, you know, scientists to the global north and contributing really at par. Thank you.
All right. So I'm going to open it up if folks have either questions or comments from the audience, either here or virtual. I think Colin, do we have anybody virtually? Okay, great. Okay, thank you. I'll turn to my
Hi,
left.
Dan.
Hi. All right, why don't we open it up for any other questions or comments before we hit the awards?
Sure. Dan, maybe can I start virtually?
Yes, you may.
Great. So no major comments apart from or questions rather, but a comment from a MSc graduate who's joined us, and we really appreciated your words. So thanks, Dan, for that. And maybe just a comment from my end. When I think about the future as well, I think you brought across such an important point, which is communication, and that came out as well with Steve's presentation. And I think going forward, communication has to be such a big thing where we start working together as well, because communicating is all well when we communicate good science and we communicate to our clinical participants, etc. But communication amongst the scientists in the room, I think, is extremely important as well. And heading into the future, I think we need to carry this culture of communication, because we all started alone in silo in most instances, where we didn't have individuals that knew pharmacometrics, but now we're at a point where we're actually moving with an army. And so it's important to actually communicate, encourage capacity building, and draw more individuals. Let's create more chapters into Pharmacometrics Africa. Thanks,
Great.
Dan.
Great. Thank you. Yeah, the communication part, we've got a program at the Gates Foundation called Design, Analyze, Communicate, or DAC. And in the C part, people like, oh, what, do we really have to do that? I'm like, well, if you don't have that, then you just have duh. That doesn't sound very good. But yeah, the communication part and just thinking about all the stakeholders. I mean, we've heard that so many different times. So thanks for reemphasizing. And we have a question. Yes, Nada, and then we'll head back.
I would like to take up
Yeah.
one point that has been raised by Steve, and that is not only AI to speed up processes in the African Medicines Agency, but also to improve the processes.
Yeah.
And it has rang a bell with me that Lou Scheiner once, many years ago, had coined the term of learn, confirm paradigm. So not just sequential approach, but get data, learn from them, and improve what you are doing then the way down. The question is actually now to the panel, how do you see the opportunity actually to make use of that new agency to establish really improved processes like accelerated approval, get the drug early on the market, learn from how it's being applied on the market, and then maybe either cancel, take it away from the market again, or change the dosing or whatever, learn from that, but get novel drugs faster on the market.
Why don't you give this a shot since and I'm happy to comment on that as well, because this is something I think about almost on a daily basis. So.
Thank you. With regard to that, we do collaborations, and then we do alliance for products that have been now listed with AMA. So South Africa is part of that. And for those products that are listed by AMA, what we would do is that they will fall under the category of reliance. I've indicated that we do have different pathways. So for reliance, where we have memorandum of agreements and understanding for those applications, we actually have 180 days to complete our evaluation. Basically, what we are doing with those type of application, we're only looking at the local requirements because we were part of the assessment of those applications.
Yeah, the promise is just mind-blowing, I think. And then it comes down to implementation. I think reliance and AI and just having a central agency could make just such a huge difference. I mean, the capacity, capability are big challenges. And I think, you commented on quality, and I think that's true. I mean, I use AI in so many different things, and it improves the quality of what I do. So I think that's another one. And then, looking at cost and time, right? So if you can address capability and capacity, then you can address cost as well while you're reducing time. And then the vision is through reliance, you can hit 55 countries with a single dossier. That's the vision. And that's attractive to industry as well. Because I mean, I've had, leaders in the industry say it costs me more to submit and to deal with regulatory issues than I actually make. It's less expensive for me to donate the drug. And that's just something we have to change. So at least that's kind of the vision, which I think we're excited about, and how different groups can contribute to that. All right, all right, I'm gonna follow the mic and have people there. Okay, we have a mic in hand back there, and then we'll move up into the front, please.
Thank you very much. My question is to the regulatory person. We know we've talked about use of AI to support the regulatory processes, but we know there are lots of reservation or how much people can trust how AI can deliver or support processes. How are the regulations for use of AI to support regulatory processes? What are some of the steps that are being taken so that whatever is being used in the regulatory processes, it is trusted by the community? Then the other comment or question is, South Africa, of course, always moves ahead very fast, but how are you moving along with the other national regulatory authorities from other countries so that we can all move together at the same pace? Thank you.
I'll let you take the first one.
You take that.
I'll take the second one.
Okay, thank you. I think your question was partly answered by my co-panelist to say, as scientists, we will still have our place. We are not going to fully rely on AI. We will still do what we supposed to be doing. And what we want AI to assist us on is that to give us the time so that it does all the administrative things so that we can really focus on our mandates.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was more of like regulations for use of AI.
Okay. With regard to the regulations on AI, I think on the slide I did indicate that there are laws that we need to take care of before we can fully implement. And then currently I've seen with mature regulatory authorities, they are actually coming up with the guidelines on how to regulate AI. And we do have a division in our unit, in SAPRA, wherein their medical device unit, wherein they are actually in their program, they are coming up with laws on how we're going to regulate the AI. So eventually there will be regulations, how we're supposed to be using AI as regulators. And then I think once that are being enforced, currently now what we're doing with the AI is that it's on the process efficiency part of it. And it will be on within the SAPRA space. Is not going to be available for the public because we need to still conform to the secrecy clause, we still need to conform to the POPIA Act and all those type of things.
Yeah. So the question about, is everybody moving at the same pace? The answer is no. And I don't think they ever will. Right. I just don't think that that's real. Because there's so many things that are just not controllable. The world just moves at different paces. But that said, how do you help the countries that don't have the resources? So, and again, I think this is the beauty of reliance, and especially if we can do the one dossier, one review on the continent, I think that will just be amazing, because then any country can use the reliance mechanism. And the truth of the matter is, innovative products don't hit many of the countries in Africa. So it's not like, these countries are not submitting 55 dossiers to 55 countries. They're doing, 10 to 20 on a good day. So I think that actually having a central agency will really boost the equality and give, countries without those types of resources the access that they've never really had. Right, please.
Okay, thank you for the amazing discussion.
But I'm very anxious to ask, have you started implementing the AI in parts of your processes, or it is just still a future perspective or a future look to what can be done? This is the first question. And then when you answer, I will continue my question.
Currently now we're developing 3 AI tools within our systems. And as I have indicated that it's a small pace, we develop, we test, and then we scale up. We develop, we test, we scale up. We've got a 5-year plan until we finalize.
Okay, then the rest of the question is, it's sort of related to what my colleague asked. I'm not asking about regulation. I'm asking about the identity of the AI, where it learns as it takes, as we go, as we train it. So it will be trained on evaluating, for example, or giving scores or correcting or whatever. It will be trained on this. So how will this be controlled in the AI era to be confidential and restricted to this regulatory body? And at the same time, we know that all AIs, they use the same, I don't know what it's called, but it is the same versions with different modifications. So when you get onto cloud, you can see it uses GPT 4.3, and then when you get to GPT, it uses GPTX and so on. So what I mean is that they are somehow connected. So it is a pro and con at the same time, because we are teaching it and we are using it to automate and to accelerate our processes. But at the same time, it will not be a cheat point, which is for the industries or for whoever is submitting. It is a pro. It's something good, because maybe their preparation of the files or the dossiers will be easier. So I think it is, there is something that should be, what can I say, restricted about exposing everything to the AI. What you said was very wise, and what Dan said was very wise. Still, the human or the scientist or the administrator should have the upper hand to use the AI as a supportive tool, not to fully give it and then not to give it the whole process or part of the process. It always should be restricted to supportive, supplementary, but it cannot take. Automation can be done without using the AI. Automation can be done. Integration can be done. But about giving the whole task to the AI, it needs much thinking, much integration of cybersecurity. Other than this, it will be available to others because they are all connected. Thank you.
Yeah, this is,
Dan,
yeah, we talk about the human in the loop, which I just thought of a great visual of how we can have the human in the loop. But yeah, I don't think we're, yeah, you want to?
No, I thanks for the comment. And I think it's important as regulators that we are not going to short circuit the, remember I showed you the slide on the processes. What we want to reduce the timelines. There will still be a human who's doing a primary review, the peer reviewer, quality assurer, and the whole process will still do it. So be rest assured that as we embrace AI, it's to reduce the timeline, and in that we become more efficient.
Yes. Yeah, please.
Dan, can I
Dan,
add
may I?
something here?
Oh, yes, Vishnu.
So Dan, there's a lot of questions in the room about regulatory and bringing most regulatory authorities up to speed on the continent. And interestingly, there's been a very interesting side event that was part of DHA, and it was a half-day meeting. So maybe Colin can provide us with some insights to see whether these were already tackled there. Thanks, Colin.
So I'll do two things. Thanks, Vishni. I'll do two things. One is that I know that Mashlori was on the plane at the time, so she didn't attend it. However, there is one member of the panel that's sitting there. I won't say whether it's from left to right, but this person's right in the center. But maybe that person could give comments about the SAPRA side effects.
What was the question, Colin?
And interestingly enough, it turns out that the recording is available. I'll pop that into the chat from the entire meeting.
Ah, right. Yeah. Oh, there you go.
Okay, thank you very much. I think what we tend to forget is that the product development landscape has changed quadruple in the last decade. And if you look at some of the things we are doing, nobody thought we would do them 10 years ago. The things of filing electronically, nobody thought would ever happen in the last decade. Remote monitoring for clinical trials, COVID threw it into it. Adaptive clinical trial was a theory till COVID hit the road, and now it is there. These things are going to come much faster. And some of the crises, the whole thing of circular bioeconomy, which is the next industrial revolution, is going to make us do some of these things much faster than we think. So be prepared, be ready. There's no time for you either join the bandwagon or you'll be left behind.
Thanks for that. Yeah, the one, communication implementation, a form of implementation is change management, and it was mentioned a couple times here. And we're in an era right now where change is coming so fast. If I could wish a skill on everybody, it would be the ability to do that. And I can, my team knows this. I'm like triple black belt in change management and implementation, and it was probably one of the best things I've ever done for my career. So I'll just throw that little nugget out there as well. All right, there's a microphone somewhere. Thanks, please.
Just to tag along the point that Dan made to Prof. Ogutu and Kay, you're both educators, and we've thoroughly discussed the potential of AI moving forward. How are we integrating this within curricula in training in universities? What are you doing about this? Because it now looks like a lot of AI skills are self-taught, to be honest. To a large extent, they are self-taught. How do we capture this within curricula to make sure that the students coming out are at least trained to a certain level to integrate this within their professions?
I'm glad that's not to me, because that's a great question.
Well, I don't know if Professor Ogutu is still going to classes. Maybe I can start because obviously I go to classes every day. Well, we are aware of the changes that are happening in with AI in especially with regards to also making sure that in our educational system we tag along because it's just impossible to not be involved and not to make sure that our students are also benefiting from this. But what's also crucial, and most important for us is to make sure that they are not relying on the AI. They are using AI as a tool to supplement what they are learning. That is where we start from. AI is not what you are going to rely on, but AI is going to help you to learn. So in classes, in my class, when you are writing that non-mem code, you are free to use AI to write your non-mem code. Okay, but you have to be able to debug that non-mem code. So if you don't know how to write that non-mem code, you will not be able to debug it. Okay, so that's point number one. And also in terms of university regulation, with the use of AI, our university has a unit that deals with student and AI for assessments. You know, for instance, we make sure, of course, we're teaching, we make sure they use AI, but for assessments, you know, we also make sure they are allowed to use AI to support their assessment, but you have to declare. So we want to be as transparent as much as possible because we know we are using it in classes. We are encouraging them to use it. We cannot stop them from using it, but you have to declare how much of your assessment is being supported by AI. Okay, how much they are transparent about that is a different story. But if you have used it, you have to be transparent. But what I just want to emphasize is that in universities, at least our university, we make sure that we incorporate AI into our classes. We incorporate AI into any element of our teaching that we believe AI can help. As I've said, non-mem coding is one. There's no point, if you don't know how to write non-mem code, or you just want, even if you know how to write non-mem code, and you just want to quickly put it together to maybe reduce your time and improve efficiency, then you can ask AI to do that for you. But you have to understand what AI is producing. That's the bottom line. That's where I mean before, that the science, we still have to teach it, and that's where we come from.
Thank you. I think this is something that everybody deals with for the university where I spend a bit of time in Strathmore. I don't teach much, but I do the research bit of it, is that the lecturers have to be prepared on AI so that they can understand and be able to help the students. They can use it, but you also need to be able to interrogate to know when they are using it for the wrong purpose. And because if you are setting your exams, then you want to play around with it to make sure that as they answer the questions, then I think some of these things can be picked up. And I think this is something just preparing the management to make sure that everybody dealing with it, you don't want to stifle it, but you want to ensure that people don't lose their intellect because of AI and people stop relying on it. And I think those are some of the things that, and it is a moving target. There's nowhere that it is going to be perfect. And that's what the university is really struggling with and trying to make sure that they try to keep pace. Thank you.
Yeah, this is that's a great question. The iPad that they just put on the desk here was not to show me a Netflix series. It's to start to wrap it up. So I'm gonna unfortunately have to do that. But I appreciate the last question. I mean, it's a couple of aspects of it. I've been thinking about how do you train today? What does that actually look like? And there was an interesting article in The Economist in the last 2 weeks about the resurgence of blue books. I don't know. Does everybody know what a blue book is? So when I went to college, I actually had paper books, right? So, but it's just a 10-page paper notebook, and you'd bring that to class, and it's blank, and there's nothing in it but lines, and not code. You right? So it's like just a blank piece of white paper with lines, and they'd give you questions, and you'd have to write your answers into this book. And they were saying that a lot of universities are actually bringing this back to see what people actually know, right? So they're taking, okay, no electronic, no anything, which was kind of interesting. And then I'll wrap up on what could be a provocative statement, which I love to do. And that is like, do you have to say you used AI? So I was having this debate this week with a couple of different folks, and they're like, oh well, do regulators have to tell companies if they used AI? And regulators are asking companies, well, did you use AI? And I'm like, well, of course you did. Like, if you didn't use AI, I would be so disappointed, right? I mean, I think we're going to get to that point. It's like, well, when you wrote your paper, did you use Google? Right? Did you ask it? I mean, I think we're going to get to that point. And then, as long as that quote unquote, humans in the loop, I think that's the key thing. But it'll be interesting to see when regulators stop asking companies, did you use AI? because why do they care? Right? Yeah, and why would a company care? I mean, the data is the data, right? And somebody's going to look at the data, and if a company sends in something and the regulator goes, well, that's just crazy, and they go, oh, I didn't read what the AI wrote. That's not an excuse, right? So anyway, on that fun thought, I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you for all the questions. Thanks to my panelists for some great insights as well. And thanks to all of you for staying awake for the last session. And who do I hand it over to? Colin, I'm going to look back at you since you wrote me into this. Get me out of this.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Vaishni. We'll take it from here now. The panel can sit where they are. And if I could ask the camera team to sort of look sharp and be ready to focus on certain people as we go into the closing section. Can I ask if Professor Ogutu can come sit next to me?
As always.
That's about the only one that. So what we're going to do now is to start to close the meeting. I hope that we can do this as quickly and as efficiently as possible. The plan is you could sit, yeah, you could come and sit. So the plan is that we're going to go through different individuals. One of the key things that we've been trying to do, Katrina and myself, so Katrina and I will do this session actually, is that we've been trying to coach, mentor, and empower our younger team. And so I'm going to call upon different individuals to describe their role and to then take on certain of the tasks that we've been talking about. So I'll start off with, let's see, Vaishni is up there already. Vaishni, you want to go first as chair of the scientific committee. Tell us about your role, tell us about how the team worked, etc.
Great. Thanks, Colin. So as Colin stated, there was the chair of the scientific committee, and it's been quite a moment of reflection for me. So I think it was really, really nice to be chairing something and today to see it come together. I think more so because I started off as the clinician who someone, I think it was Kay, who earlier said he didn't know how to do things. I didn't know how to install an R package. So starting off there to actually being here now and to come together with the team, I think it made my role as chair of the scientific committee even more fruitful and enriching experience for me as well. I think it's quite important that I must thank all the scientific committee team members who has done a fantastic job. They've worked tirelessly behind the scenes to actually see what you see today. And I think much of the work that is being shared, putting the program together as well, was so that you guys could have a very enriching experience, but not only just to share the science, but also to tell you a story of Pharmacometrics Africa, which started off like a very slow train out of the station, and we got to different platforms and we met challenges and we've addressed them, and now we're actually building momentum. And that was the idea behind putting this program together. And as Pharmacometrics Africa is building momentum, we actually want to take regulatory with us as well and spread this wider. So I hope that you guys had a fantastic time and really enjoyed our program as much as I did. And I really feel really bad that I've missed out being there in person. But before I hand over back to Colin, there's a few things that I just would have to mention. All the presentations that you've seen today, the recordings will be sent, so the Zoom link recordings will be sent to all registered delegates. And then in the next few days, we would our team will work through all the presentations and the slides, get them prepared to be uploaded onto our Pharmacometrics website. So please keep your eyes open for that. And then very importantly as well, there is a post-event evaluation that we would kindly ask all of you to fill out. I think this is really important for us to learn from this experience and to provide you with a better experience next year. And yes, I'm saying next year. So Colin, we're already planning for next year.
Great stuff. Thanks,
Great.
Vaishni.
Thanks.
Thanks, Vaishni. So next up, I want to call Innocent, and Innocent has been chair of the organizing committee. I don't know, Innocent, put your hand up so that the camera can focus on you, or stand up, or whatever. The camera will find you. Don't worry. Just stand. Oh, you need a mic. Okay, yes, of course, come. And then just to save time, Cassius, I'm going to pounce on you next.
Okay, thank you. So I've been chair organizing committee. We had some other committees. Thanks, Vaishni, scientific committee, you've done a great job. We had communications, Catriona, Ida, Simon, Francis. Thanks for the wonderful work you've done. We also had the budget and finance committee. So Colin and Cassius, you've done a great job. And yeah, so regarding my last speech, so the whole day has been about AI. So I had to ask AI to polish my speech. So, so allow me read that.
Innocent, you.
Pardon? Yeah. So hello again. So as we draw the curtain on this historic first Pharmacometrics Africa conference, I want to pause and reflect on what we have achieved together. Over the past days, we have not only shared science, we have built bridges, we have aligned cutting-edge methods in pharmacometrics with Africa's most urgent public health needs, and in doing so, we have truly begun to celebrate a new era for our continent. We have explored how regulatory science is evolving from bioequivalence studies to AI-supported dossier review, and how innovative approaches like model-based meta-analysis and PBPK modeling can transform access to medicines for underserved populations. More importantly, we have seen that Africa has the talent, the vision, and the determination to be at the forefront of these advances. This gathering has shown us that our strength lies not only in knowledge, but in collaboration across disciplines, across borders, and across generations. The energy and curiosity of our students, our fellows, the dedication of our researchers and regulators, the commitment of our industry and policy partners and our funders have been nothing short of inspiring. But this is just the beginning. The conversations we have started here must translate into sustained action, building capacity, strengthening networks, and creating pathways that ensure every patient in Africa benefits from the science we champion. On behalf of the organizing committee, I thank you all, speakers, participants, sponsors, and partners for making PMXAC25 a reality. Together, we have set the foundation. Now let us go forward with purpose, carrying this momentum and into our institutions, our countries, and our continent. Pharmacometrics in Africa has entered a new era, and the future is ours to shape. Thank you.
That's awesome. So Cassius worked with Bernd and myself on the finance committee. So what this meant was rattling the tin cap. So Cassius, could you just acknowledge our sponsors? He needs a microphone.
No, I have one. Thank you, Colin. Thank you all for attending the inauguration of the Pharmacometrics Africa. As Colin has introduced me, my name is Cassius Powale. I'm a postdoc at Stellenbosch University under the supervision of Vaishni. I was in the previous cohort last year for APT, and this year when I was involved on the committee, initially I was there stepping in for Vaishni. She was not attending the meeting that day, but then there was some job that needed some extra hands, then I offered to help. And
I ended up involving in a finance committee, also in the registration. On behalf of the finance committee, we extend our heartfelt gratitude to our sponsors who support and made this conference possible, and of which made some of us to come and attend this conference today in Kampala and knowing Kampala and Makerere University. We specifically thank the Infectious Disease Institute, and we also thank the Medicine for Malaria Venture, the Bayer, Ella Lilly, the American Society of Clinical Pharmacology and Therapeutics. We also extend our gratitude to the H3D Foundation, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Metram Research Group, International Society of Pharmacology, the Human Predictions, World Congress of Basic and Clinical Pharmacology. We further extend our sincere gratitude to the International Union of Basic and Clinical Pharmacology and Population Approach Group of Australia and New Zealand. And we also like to thank the Occams and Skygenics for their financial contribution to this integration Pharmacometrics Africa Conference 2025. Webele, thank you.
So one of the things that Cassius mentioned was actually the sponsors that helped put some money together in order to finance or fund the poster competition. So that's what we want to go into now. Now, in reality, I would have loved if Linda Chaba was online, but Linda has been analyzing all of the data that was coming in from the poster judges. And ideally, she would have then described to you what the poster judging process was. So the reason I called Professor Ogutu here next to me is that he's going to help me a little bit doing this. And because he hasn't seen these slides before, as you know, I tend to pounce on people. We'll do this together. So the slides are up there. Linda, thank you so much. Linda went to bed at about 3:30 this morning, and she really wanted to be here. But anyway, so these were the judges. And as you can see, Professor Ogutu, Buldeni, Samir Muksasi, Mashlodi, Karen Rowland, Kay, and Steve were our judges. So most of you have met these people because they're here in the meeting. And so this was an independent set of judges. We gave them some judging criteria. These are the 5 criteria here, and here's where I will then pounce on Professor Ogutu and ask him if he wants to comment on what the criteria involved and what the process was that they went through.
Thank you very much. And I think it was quite a nice process to go through the written script of how you are to possibly evaluate the posters, and then going through that. The portal was fairly friendly, that you could walk in and be able to see the posters and listen to the presentation as well from each of the candidates that presented their posters. So there's both virtual and visual presentation of these posters, which was fairly good, and we could really see the communication live from those who are presenting their posters. And I think then we looked at the novelty of the idea, the impact, and the methods that were used, and how it was presented, that anybody can see it and possibly make sense out of it, and really the message that came out from the poster to the audience that those who are interested in. And I think that forms the basis of really independently everybody scored the poster to see how good they are for this audience that we are dealing with. Yeah.
Thanks, Prof. And Steve Kern, I think, has joined the meeting, so he got up early. If he is in the meeting, if I could ask the AV team to also put him up on the screen. And the reason for that is, as we were going through analyzing the data, we had some that were close. So we pounced on our friends again, Bill Denny and Steve Kern, and we asked them to then look a little bit more to help us make that final choice. Thanks, Bill. Thanks, Steve. So here's the categories, and this is the award. Each poster and we're talking about it as a poster because, as you know, we seldom do single person or single scientist work nowadays. So it's a cash award of $500 per poster. The poster awards go to Outstanding Young Scientist Poster Awards. Then we created another category called Outstanding Other Poster Award. And then a Delegate's Choice Award, which is what you did earlier in the day. So first we tell you about, let me ask Prof. Ogutu to announce the Outstanding Other Poster Award.
Right. So the outstanding other poster award category goes to the Advancing Pharmacometrics Capacity Building in Africa. And I think it's possibly people might say because this was the people who are involved, but I think if you look at the impact of this capacity building on the continent with the retention rate and possibly the impact within the short few years, it was an idea with minimal, if you look at the amount of resources that have been put into it and the impact, you literally can't compare the two. And I think that's what gives that award to this poster.
So I don't know if Vainant is in the room, if you could just stand up and take a bow. You were the person that submitted the poster.
I'll be quick on this. I just want to confirm it's not an individual. This is a group. So I don't want to take a acknowledgement of this work as an individual, but really recognize everybody contributes. So it's all the partners that are involved, and really it's been a work from everyone's commented, I think, from where they had some contact with Colin. And this is really how things work for me as well. So again, thanks to everyone, and I appreciate the group effort. Thank you.
So here's the first of the Outstanding Young Scientists.
And that goes to Sharon.
Sharon, if you could stand up, Sharon. If you could stand up at least, and if any of your co-authors are here, they could also stand up.
Yeah, I think some of these findings have a lot of implication if you're looking at what it involves and what it is going to impact the way TB treatment is going to be. And I think these are some of the things that, and the way it is being put across. And I think these are some of the things that, if you keep on that track, Sharon, the field is yours.
Okay, the next one, right? Get ready to start screaming. And then my slides don't work.
Yes, and I think this also answers a very critical question on how you really, hepatitis C treatment can be looked at in detail to inform policy and really the implementation of the program at a country level and what impact this has in bringing the cost down and having a successful outcome to the population. This you can explain to a governor at a central bank and give you the money. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Aya. So we go to the next one. This was submitted by Safa, and Safa is virtual. If we could ask Innocent to stand up, because he's the second author on the slide.
And I think this now gives you a new tool that you can use for doing some of the complex works and makes it easier and much more presentable for most people to really understand. And I think these are some of the things that you don't need to go anywhere. You don't need much sophistication to get this done. You just need to have the ideas. All of us can do it. Thank you, Innocent, for keeping the team moving.
Next one.
All right.
Is there any member of this team that could stand up and take a bow?
Yes. The beautiful thing you see in this is one of the oldest antibiotics. We still don't have everything, knowing everything. And this is what bothers you, especially if you are working in the pediatric population like me. You go in and you find reviews of the similar data from the word go. And I think this is something that even the old drugs that we have, we still don't have all the information about them. And that's what this brings up, and possibly how we can best position these molecules, because we are not going to get new antibiotics coming out soon. Thank you.
Can I just say, I don't know if Boniface is online, but Boniface he's getting towards the end of his PhD. He could not travel to the meeting because he's currently writing up from the States, but this is a massive milestone. And the second thing I do want to say, this involved intrapartum PK. That is actually taking samples during labor, which was acceptable, feasible, etc. So don't buy when people tell you you can't do it. Thank you.
And I just looked, but Boniface is not online. I'm sure he's going to feel bad that he's not online. So get ready for the next one.
Yes.
So again, from the UCT group, Bongi, if you can stand up.
Yes. And I think there's also one good drug that we know that we have problems with, but I think the more we understand it, the better for the TB space. And I think these are really results that have direct policy implication in the way the programs are going to run. And it's not just academic. And I think these are some of the things that possibly the team that is here making huge impact on what is going to happen on the continent. So thank you. Keep it up.
I think this is the last one. Catherine?
The delegate's choice.
What?
The delegate's choice.
Is this the delegate's choice? That's the last one. Okay, better.
So Catherine, this is also quite a really encouraging story. Catherine was a medical student at the University of Liverpool, and they have a sort of short placement researchy thing. And she came into our team and she did this review and it was outstanding. And that had to be her own work. But as soon as she'd submitted her assignment, I was like, we need to write this up. And so we brought in the troops, we brought in the second reviewer, and this is going to be such a milestone. Thank you.
So I forgot, we do have the delegate's choice. Drum roll, somebody. We had about 40 odd votes, and overwhelmingly this one won.
Right.
Nuran?
So this just tells you how popular regulatory issues are in this community.
It's great, and maybe they didn't hear what you said, because I think you should say that, Nuran.
My words help me. I come here to speak one language, all stakeholder, regulator, companies, modeler like you. So I feel the words tell me, so it may be later.
Awesome. So once again, thanks to our sponsors to help us put the money together to give each one of these teams $500 cash money. Do with it whatever you want. Go to dinner, buy books. But this is a scientific meeting, And in reality, what we wanted also is to help you further your scientific endeavors. So let me explain the next step for all of these winners, except the first poster, but I'll discuss that with Vainant a little bit later. That's why it's in the other category. So we've been able to get to put together travel awards, and expenses will be paid to attend. The winning team can nominate one of the authors for any of the following travel grants. This will be subject to a second process where the team or the individual needs to submit a proposal describing what their current and planned research would be and how they will use the visit to accelerate their professional development. The grant will cover all expenses and registration fees to attend the meetings. I want to talk about these three groups here. So the Uppsala Pharmacometrics Summer School is a long-standing collaboration that Pharmacometrics Africa has had with Mats Carlson and the team there. This is the premier event to learn pharmacometrics. It's a free workshop. But of course, people need to get money in order to get there. And that's what the travel grant is for. There is a proviso that the individual has to be a PhD student. So that's the first one. The second one is that the American Society of Clinical Pharmacology and Therapeutics has got this LMIC accelerator program. And they've agreed to bring a scientist to the next meeting. So that'll be a grant of $2,500. Why we keep adding and Pharmacometrics Africa is that we will supplement any additional expenses that's needed, but the bulk of the money will come from ASCPT. And then last but not least is the World Conference on Pharmacology, which is happening in Brisbane, Australia. Big thanks to Carl Kirkpatrick who swung this deal for us. This would allow a scientist to go to PAGANS, which is the Population Approach Group, Australia and New Zealand, and to the World Conference on Pharmacology 2026. It's in Brisbane, Australia. And there might also be some invitations to come and visit some of the labs there because it's such a long trip. So that's the next phase. All of the award winners, again, give them a round of applause. As you saw, we recognize quite a few individuals. So we will give 3 of these awards, depending on what that proposal looks like. Okay. And that's it, I think, in terms of the travel awards. Let me now hand it over to Katrina, who's our local host, and she's got lots of stuff to tell you.
Well, I'll try and keep it brief. And I think, like some of the young investigators, I feel kind of emotional for various reasons, but particularly that getting one of these prizes, having your work reviewed by experts at a meeting like this, it is just such a milestone. And it's just such an honor to be present whilst these awards are being given out. And those colleagues of mine who are not in the room, I know just how much this will mean. And I think that brings me back to the opening remarks about stories. And, you know, sometimes an event might not seem enormous to some people, but actually to the person involved, it is actually transformative. And I think we can all talk about that. And I believe that there have been many such events over this day. I was going to say this week. It feels only a day. How can it be a day? Congratulations, everybody. I want to thank every single person who has turned up, has participated, has engaged, and has discussed. And I would encourage you all to keep the conversation going. I think we also, the sponsors have already been acknowledged, but one sponsor in particular has recorded a short talk that will be on the website as well from ISOP. And there are some interesting, you watch that, there's some interesting opportunities, particularly for students. And I would encourage you all to get involved with all of the networks. In terms of thanks, I'm not going to stand here and list every single person because it would really, it would probably have to call out every single person in the room. Some of you who've spoken and have been session chairs and stuff, Ida and I will approach you with something, a small token that hopefully reminds you of Uganda and remind you of this meeting. I also want to thank the dedicated support team. You know, sometimes we don't always see just how much effort they've put in. And, you know, we've been here late at night. We've been here in the dark in power cuts trying to sort of troubleshoot. There's been some very, very early starts, particularly for people who've had to get up early, travel in, set up before you guys have come. The catering staff, the cleaning staff, you know, who've made the room ready for us. As I said, I'm not going to single out names, but there are two particular people who have been the absolute backbone of the local committee and really do need to have a special shout out. And you will receive a gift from the local team. And those would be Ojara, Francis Williams Ojara, and Simon Peter Asimwe. You will have seen these two moving around, and they have gone the extra mile at every single step. Phone calls in the middle of the night, all kinds of chaos behind the scenes, some of which I haven't even known about. I've been protected from, but I know about some of it. And also, they are both gifted with a magnificently calm personality, which is actually quite a perfect counterfoil to my slightly less calm demeanor. So thank you all very much. Let the networking continue. I think that's all.
So
And back to Yoda. Sorry, back to Yoda.
I'm really not going to prolong this beyond. I also want to acknowledge Katrina because you've heard it at the beginning and she's been an incredible host. Thank you so much, Katrina. As Vaishni said, we will post all of these recordings. There's quite a few action items. You've already been networking with the editors. There's a Frontiers special edition. Karen has got some plans for getting publications here. The Journal of Pharmacokinetics and Pharmacodynamics have provided us with money. So they're all interested in your work. They're interested in the African science. And that is one of the next steps. So with that, I'm going to close the meeting. And that's the end of, let me just get one more. Wait, there's one more that Professor Ogutu has just whispered into my ear. And that is, there's an incredible master's program, and it's an immersive learning master's program. So look out for that. We'll put all of these into the Pharmacometrics Africa website. So if you're not a member of that website or that, go to the contact form and register so that you become part of the mailing list. And with that, I definitely want to close it now. Thanks, everybody. Take care. Bye.